What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. We've got the Panthera electric start kit for the CR500. So today's video is going to be all about tips and tricks on installing this electric start kit. In my opinion, there's a lot of little tweaks you got to do to actually get this thing to work right and make sure it's perfect. So I'm going to take you guys step by step through Sebastian's how-to book here. Now guys, we love picture books, but it's always nice having a video. Alright guys, so step one. You've got to plug the hole on the engine case. Now this is pretty self-explanatory. I've got another clip I'm going to insert of talking about basically putting some silicone and some goop down in that hole right there. Now if you guys are new to the Panthera electric start kit, you're going to be basically putting oil inside your dry cover. There's a drain inside the stock CR500 that's right here. So you're going to plug that with silicone and make sure the oil can't seep out of there. You're also going to want to pay attention to any nicks or dings. Like you can see, these are used cases. There's a couple little dingers. I'm going to smooth all this out, make it as perfect as possible so we get a really nice seal on this cover. Now the reason for this, guys, this case is actually a dry cover. So this would be like an aftermarket just stator cover. This is generally a dry cover. There's no oil back there, but you're putting oil in there with this electric start kit. So we don't want oil leaking on the ground. That would be terrible. So you guys have to make sure this is plugged off. You also want to let it dry. I would recommend 24 hours. Yeah, don't screw that step up. Now guys, after you get that plugged up, it's time to start working on this bad boy. So the first step is going to basically be getting the stator and the stator plate installed. Stator back plate pre-assembled and torqued and thread locked. The stator plate time angles go from +3 to -3. So I'm going to start in the middle position. That's how I've done all of these kits that I've actually installed. Let's go ahead and get this installed. I'm going to set it in the middle setting. We're going to go with the middle hash mark and start there. You can always adjust this later on. So right here guys, it's basically saying place the rubber boot into its proper location in the case opening, which we've already done, so we have it installed. And again, it's not all the way. It's going to be pushed in a little bit farther. Now he continues on to say, place the cables back to ensure they won't touch the flywheel. Using cable ties, secure the pickup coil cable and the stator cable together and locate them as deep as possible in the case. Your wires are going to hit your flywheel is what he's saying. It just doesn't exactly say that. I think that part of it could be a little bit clearer, but that's why I'm making this video. It does say the flywheel trigger bump will tend to touch the rubber boot. And what he's talking about there is the actual bump on the flywheel. So again guys, when you install this, just don't tighten anything down yet. Just make sure everything's good. So you're going to rotate your engine over. See that right there? See how that's bumping? So I'm actually going to shave this a little bit. I'm going to take a little bit of material off this rubber boot. Now on top of that, we're going to talk about the wires in the back and how they're actually contacting the flywheel. So basically what I'm saying guys, there's a couple things you can do. There's a couple ways to get those wires to clear. You could just sit there like a madman with a flathead screwdriver trying to get them to work, but I'm going to show you guys the real reason why that is actually not clearing the flywheel. Now it's an easy fix. It's going to take about 5-10 minutes. You just got to take a little bit of a deep dive into the way the wires are ran. I'm going to show you guys how to fix that. Problem with this, you can see how the blue wire is kind of wrapped with the red wire. Now, if this would have just been ran next to this one, this whole clutterfuck of wiring would not be sticking out like this. Because every time I stick the flywheel on, it hits, which is a great time. So, I'm gonna go ahead and try to fix it and kind of give you guys a rundown on what to do when you run into a problem like this. So, like I was saying, that's the problem right there. That's making this whole assembly kick out. So it's really just the blue and the red that we gotta fix. So I'm gonna try to pull this back and see if we can get this straightened out. Okay, so we already got the tabs bent back. I'm gonna simply just take the twisted section. I'm gonna slide it over to here so it's twisted inside these holders right here. We're gonna hope that fixes the problem. So I'm gonna just put this sheathing back over it. I'm gonna get this crimped down. We're gonna reinstall it on the engine and see if the wires have a little bit more clearance now. We've got clearance. It's a good day. Kind of see the difference there. It's really hard to tell, but there's definitely clearance there. It's a little bit of like a step down on the back of the flywheel. Just like right here, the wires are kind of just sticking out around where that step down is. Overall, it's a lot better than it was. I just would hate to see anybody install this and have their wire rubbing. Okay, picture book time. Your flywheel with keyway slide it in place. You'll have to counter the fall of magnetism to locate it straight. Yeah, so basically slide your flywheel on. Make sure your woodruff key's good. After you slide it in, just double check. I can see it's in there. I have no issues with that. Cool, so the old woodruff key's good. Now he's got this nifty kind of one-way bearing deal. So these are actually gonna hook into the flywheel right here. So you wanna make sure and line these up with these holes here. And this is gonna thread on. So this is gonna replace your flywheel nut. This is now your new flywheel nut, right here. Get a ratchet. Wonder if they can hear the rain in the video. It is raining like crazy outside today.
Monsoon season.
Monsoon season. Alright, so the flywheel is on. I've just got this kind of hand tightened right now. So now it's time to torque it. Now this is where I'm super impressed with this new kit. It's got a nice holding device right here. Looks like it's laser cut. Now we're basically going to engage this into the teeth here. We're going to hold it here, and we're going to also tighten here with a torque wrench. Now, when you go to tighten this, you want to make sure you actually tighten it, because these will come off if you're not careful. Now, the reason I say that is because I've had past experience with the Gen 1 kit. We were shearing flywheel keys. Now, it's not Panthera's fault. The hot rods didn't know how to cut a groove on the crank. So what I did was I put a larger woodruff key. We did not have a holding tool back in the day, so it was a little bit harder to torque, but we got it done. And I'll insert a clip of the bike that we installed that on. Now, since that video, we've got thousands and thousands of views. I've had hundreds of questions, and that's why I'm actually making this video right now, guys. We also had a video of a CR500 dirt bike that we posted up, and that video kind of went viral. We got over 2 million views, and again, I've become, I guess, the guy to ask about the Panthera kit. I never really answer you guys, so that's why I'm just making a video. All right, so let's torque it up. I'm gonna go get my torque wrench. Looks like 70 foot-pounds. Recommend using a good torque wrench. Got the old snap-on digital. We're gonna go up to 70. Now this is a 1/2-inch drive keyway. So I'm just gonna use an adapter. It is really raining. There we go. 70.9, close enough. Cool. Yeah, so guys, that's a cool tool, I'm not gonna lie. I really like that. He has a really good improved design on that. I'm gonna make sure the one-way bearing is still spinning free, which it is. Awesome. Now, cool thing about this this guy here, if you have to pull your flywheel back off, You're basically gonna take this nut back out, slide this out of the way. This is actually a flywheel puller too. So he's got 3 holes. You're gonna have some bolts that get installed on your flywheel. You've got a center bolt that goes through here. So again, this is a flywheel puller and a holding tool. It's pretty cool design. Another cool improvement on this kit, we have a vent hose. The Gen 1 kit did not have that. So you're gonna put this bike together. It's gonna come with a nifty little vent hose. Kind of looks like a fuel line vent. You're actually gonna run this up into your bike. I would recommend under your gas tank. You wanna make sure this does not get plugged up. You can put a filter on the end of it. You can also just kind of split the end of the hose. A lot of times if you just put a little slice on the end, dirt won't stick to the end. Yeah, I'm gonna do that after the bike's all together. Now, anytime I put something together, I just inspect everything, so make sure everything's good. Looks like somebody already put oil on these bearings, which is cool. I'm actually gonna wipe this down with some alcohol, get all the oil off of here. Got the nice fresh gasket. Now, the problem with CR500s is the fact that they're old as shit. So, every single one I've installed these on, I've had to really just pay attention to the engine case. I know I said that earlier in the video when I inserted that clip. You guys really want to just pay attention to any kind of nicks and dings and dents and anything that's not right. See that right there? Got a little dinger right there. Got one here. Kind of see some casting flaws in the bottom, a couple little dingers. I would recommend taking a file, smoothing any of this stuff out, and make sure it's 100% smooth. You don't want to have a leak because this is not fun to take back off and mess with. Another cool improvement that he's done on this kit, he's got the smaller starter motor. In the past, it would cover up the carburetor. It was super hard to actually do jetting. I'll insert some pictures of the old kit. That was a nice kit, but this is 10 times nicer, so I'm excited to be installing this bad boy. All right, now typically you'd be doing this on the bike. However, I conveniently have this thing on a workbench so you guys can actually see what I'm doing, and it makes it a whole lot easier. So, like I was saying, got this nice gasket. I'm not going to trust just the gasket, so I am going to put some sealer on each side of this gasket just to be 100% sure we're not going to have any leaking issues. So I'm going to start by just kind of smoothing out some of these bumps. The way I'm going to do that, I'm going to take this little file. These aren't terrible. They're honestly hardly there. I'm just being picky. But we don't want to have this thing leak. So just take your file. I recommend a small one. Don't want to get carried away here. And just take down any of the high spots that you feel with your fingers. Now the case isn't super pretty because it is used and it's old, but we're gonna make it work. Now this is where everybody's gonna get hyper. So guys, do not give me too much shit, but I am putting Yamabond on a Honda. This shit is my favorite. It's the only tube I got laying around the shop, so it's just what it is. Now I like to just dive right in. You're gonna get messy, it's okay. Now what I'm doing is I'm just kind of spreading it on both sides of the gasket. I don't necessarily want there to be so much of this stuff on there that it's like squirting out, but I want to make sure there's enough that this is not going to leak. There's nothing worse than putting something together. Again, this is a dry cover. This was never intended to be full of engine oil. So you want to make sure this thing seals up, or you're going to have a leak on the floor, and that's not fun. Now I've got this all over my fingers, which is fine, but you guys can see about the consistency that I'm putting on there. Again, don't have it globbed on there. Just kind of take your fingers and just kind of feather it out. All right, so we're going to start by inserting it. That's not how that goes. Onto the cover. There we go. That was a tight spot. Okay. Beautiful. I'm also going to take some on my finger. I'll lightly just see a little bit of pitting. These cases have a lot of casting flaws, which is not cool. Push that rubber boot in. We're gonna put some sealer over the rubber boot. Again, we just want to give it a nice little dabber. Nothing crazy. We don't need this squirting out and looking like ass, but we want it to look good. We want it to seal, most importantly. And these cases are almost never flat. 100%, they're almost never flat. So unless you're going to take this thing out, stick this in your milling machine, or put it on a piece of granite with some sandpaper, it's not going to be flat. Again, this is a cover that was designed to be no oil. So here we are, Yamabon stage of the day. We've got the hole plugged on the bottom. We've got the case cover kind of tuned up here. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and pop this cover off so I can spin the gear and line it up. Bolts really weren't tight, so probably a good thing, because we're gonna actually fill the oil up through here. Like I said, you're putting oil in here. Get that out. You want to check up here. Make sure your rubber boot is lined up and not pinching, because that would really not be good. You also want to double check on the backside over here to make sure it's actually fully engaged into the engine case. If not, you are going to have an oil leak up here. All right, so we've got that aligned. I can see that it's grabbing the gear in there when I spin it backwards. So it's spinning the one-way bearing backwards. Now when this goes to start, it's going to spin the opposite way right here. That's going to transfer power over to this gear. It's going to spin this guy this direction, which is in turn going to turn the motor this way, and the one-way bearing is actually going to catch. So yeah, we've got a decent amount of clearance back here for the hydraulic clutch. That was one of my worries. So there we go. All right, now he sent some new hardware. So we're gonna go ahead and use that hardware. Now, something interesting I noticed. Yes, we have some new bolts, but they appear to be a little bit too long. So it's starting to get a little tight. Right there, you can see there's a little bit of a gap between the head of the bolt. Gotta tap the screen. It's got a little bit of a gap between the head of the bolt and the case. I could put a washer on there, but I'm just gonna go ahead and replace the bolts with some 8mm heads, and then it's actually gonna match the rest of the engine anyway. The Allen keys are cute, but I'm just gonna swap them out. So I'm hoping the other ones actually fit. What do we got here? That's plenty long right there. So here's what I'm gonna use. Here's what we had. The reason I'm using that is because it's plenty long. That's where the threads start. So that's where the threads start. So I'm gonna go with that length bolt. Tighten your cover, go in a crisscross pattern. I'm just sending the bolts in right now. I'm gonna go back and torque them by hand. But again, go in a crisscross pattern. You can like hear the cover flexing. It's kind of interesting. Okay. Beautiful machining. Looks awesome. All right, so that's tight. The Yama bond, which I know you guys are gonna give me shit about because it's not Honda bond. It's drying, so we're gonna let that dry, and then we'll come back tomorrow, finish this bad boy up. All right, guys, that's pretty much it. I hope you learned something. Now we're gonna come back tomorrow and actually put the oil in here. So now this gear cover is actually your oil fill cap. So every time you want to change the oil, we've got a nice little drain plug on the bottom. We're basically going to take that out and then swap this out. You shouldn't have to change it very often, but I would definitely recommend breaking it in, getting the oil changed, and going from there. Now in his directions, it basically says before putting the gears back in, pour 400 milliliters of ATF oil. Now last time I did this kit, I used 80 weight gear saver. It worked fine, never had an issue. Now for ease of filling, you can take the gears right out. This makes it 10 times easier to fill your oil up. You don't have to do anything with a funnel. You can just dump it right in. So you're gonna insert the bottom gear first, and then the top gear. And again, 400 milliliters, so get out your ratio right or your measuring cup. Do not go over that. You're gonna have some issues. You do not wanna overfill this thing. Yeah, put the gears back in place. And again, put this on and torque it, and you're pretty much good to go. Now I'm going to insert some clips of a bike that we previously installed this, so I can finish this video and get you guys kind of seeing what this looks like once it's installed, and go from there. So thanks for watching. If you guys have any more questions about this kit, if you want me to do a follow-up video on the electrical install, I can do that. But the main thing I really want to talk to you guys about was all these steps. And again, I highly recommend using Yama bond on your Honda. I'm just kidding. Get Honda bond. If you don't have it, Yama bond works fine. If you have other RTV, the gray RTV always works from the auto parts store. But make sure you get that on there, on the gasket. Let it dry overnight. I do not recommend putting oil in there until the Yama bond is completely dry, and you shouldn't have any leaks. If you follow all those steps, your kit should work. You shouldn't have any leaks, and you should be a happy camper when you're done. So anyway, guys, we'll see you in the next video. And again, if you have any questions, put it in the comments. I'll try to respond, or I'll make a follow-up video. Thanks, guys.